If you're going on safari in Northern Tanzania, you're probably going to have to go through the city of Arusha at some point. And this can be very stressful for travelers who just want to spend a few days calmly in nature, but they have to go through this chaotic and bustling town. So if this is your situation or you're planning on going to Arusha for whatever reason, in this video I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know to travel to this city. If you're new here, hi, my name is Laura and I've spent the past few years traveling all over the world and especially to lots of African countries. So in this channel I usually share lots of travel vlogs, hidden gems, and travel information videos like this one. So if this sounds like something you like, make sure you subscribe. And now let's go back into the video. So the first thing that you need to know about traveling to Arusha is how to get there in the first place. So there's a few options, but if you're flying into Tanzania for the first time, the best option is for you to fly into Kilimanjaro International Airport, which is between the cities of Arusha and Moshi, which are two very popular tourist hubs. There is another airport which is closer to the city, which is called Arusha International Airport. However, I don't recommend that you look into flying into this airport if you're traveling from outside of Tanzania, because flights that go directly to Arusha International Airport are quite rare and it is usually more expensive to fly here than to fly to Kilimanjaro International Airport. However, if you're traveling from other cities in Tanzania, such as Zanzibar City or Dar es Salaam, or even Nairobi, which even though Nairobi is in Kenya, it's pretty nearby, then Arusha International Airport might be a better option. If you're on a budget and you don't want to fly, then your best option to travel to Arusha from within Tanzania or from neighboring Kenya is to take a bus. So there are regular shuttle buses between Arusha and Nairobi. The distance between these two cities is of about 4 to 5 hours by bus. And there's also regular buses from Dar es Salaam, which is much further away. It's around 12 hours in a bus, but it is a good option if you want to travel from Zanzibar or Dar es Salaam to Arusha and you don't have a lot of money. I really recommend that you download an app called Rome to Rio if you want to use buses in Tanzania. This is not sponsored, it's simply an app that I really like and it's very useful when it comes to deciding what is the best way to go from point A to point B. It also has estimated prices and it estimates how much each method of transportation would cost, so you can choose the cheapest alternative or the one that works best for you. And if you look at different ways that you can get to Arusha from other parts of Tanzania, it will also suggest that you get on a train. So I actually don't recommend this because although there is a train that connects Arusha to other cities in Tanzania like Dar es Salaam, the trains are very slow. So the train ride from Arusha to Dar es Salaam takes 17 hours while the bus ride takes 12 hours. And the train is also pretty unreliable. It is supposed to come to Arusha city 3 times per week, but oftentimes it only comes twice per week. So if you're looking for an adventure, then trains in Tanzania are definitely it, but if you're looking for convenience, then avoid them at all costs. But moving on, let's talk about where you can stay in Arusha. So I personally stayed a total of 8 days in Arusha and I stayed at 2 different accommodations. And in my first accommodation, I made a mistake which I think a lot of travelers make, which is staying in a very, very chaotic part of town. So like I said at the beginning of this video, Arusha is generally a bustling and chaotic city, but if you stay in the city center, like really, really close to all that chaos, it can potentially be very uncomfortable. And at that first accommodation that I stayed at, I was very uncomfortable and felt a bit unsafe. I didn't feel like I could just walk out of my hotel and walk around freely. So I decided to change my accommodation and I went to a much calmer part of town and I stayed at a hostel called the Green Garden Hostel, which I highly recommend. The area around this hostel is very calm. It's got a nice green garden as the name suggests. I stayed at a private room here with a private bathroom and everything was fine. The room was pretty big, it was really nice. And I also ate lunch and dinner here several times per week and the food was really good. The breakfasts were also amazing here. And it was located in a calmer part of town, which I think is really important if you're staying in Arusha. This is something that I really think you should look into when you're booking your accommodation. If you want to stay at a higher end hotel, there's definitely lots of those in Arusha that cater to safari tourists who want something nicer and more luxury accommodation. I recommend that you look into the Kibo Palace Hotel and the Melia Hotel, which both looked spectacular. So now let's talk about what there is to do in Arusha, and honestly, there isn't much. Most tourists who come here spend only one night in the city and then they go for safari for the rest of their holiday, but if you're spending one day here, I do recommend that you use that day to go on a city tour. One of the more popular places in Arusha is the Maasai Market, so this is a market basically where you can buy different trinkets and different souvenirs. And honestly, I didn't really like it because I felt very hassled while I was there. Everyone was trying to sell me something and it was a bit stressful, honestly. Another popular tourist spot is the Cultural Heritage Center. So this is a massive shopping mall for Tanzanian souvenirs. Basically, you can find pretty much everything that you want here, and the prices are decent. They're a bit expensive, but nothing outrageous. And the good thing about this place is that you don't have to negotiate the price of anything. The prices are fixed, you don't have to worry about haggling, and you can also pay with a credit card without any extra charges or any extra fees. So it's a good place to go to if you want to buy souvenirs and you don't want to be stressed while doing it. It also has one of the largest art galleries for African art in the entire continent, so if you like African art or you want to shop, then definitely come here, but otherwise I don't really think there's much of a point in visiting this place. I think the really interesting part of Arusha is going to the local places, so I went to one of the food markets in town, which was very interesting to me as a tourist. Obviously, it's a very mundane place for anyone who is from Arusha or from Tanzania, but as a European who doesn't typically see these things at home, this was incredibly interesting to me. So I went with a guide in here because this place was like a maze. It was so easy to get lost, but it was very interesting to go around the market and see all of the different products and what was in store, what the prices were, what the seller's relation with the farmers was. It was all very, very interesting. Another really cool place I went to was the bus terminal, which I think is probably the most chaotic place in all of Arusha, so it was really interesting to walk around here. And I also went to a viewpoint where I could see all of the bus terminal and a lot of the city from above, which was also really cool to see. And while Arusha doesn't have a whole lot of things to do in the city, like there's a few other museums and things like that which are very small, well, there isn't much to see in the city. There's actually a lot to see around the city, and there's a lot of day trips and excursions that you can take from Arusha, which are very, very much worth it. So first in that category is safaris, of course. So I'm not going to talk about multi-day safari tours in this video because I did an entirely separate video that talks only about safaris in Tanzania. So I'll make sure I link that video in the description if you want to watch it after this one. But I do want to talk about safari parks that you can visit in one day from Arusha. So you can do a safari day trip to these parks. And the first of those is the Ngorongoro Crater. So the Ngorongoro Crater is my favorite safari park ever. And I'm saying this as someone who has been to over 10 safari parks in 4 different countries across Africa. Nothing even comes close to the Ngorongoro. It has the most beautiful landscapes I've ever seen, and the wildlife here is amazing as well. And because the Ngorongoro is not a very big area, the animals tend to come really close to you. Like there's a lot of animals in a small area, and that is just perfect for safari. So if there's one place that you have to visit if you're traveling to Northern Tanzania, it has to be the Ngorongoro Crater. I really, really recommend that you visit this place if you're in the area. But another very two famous national parks close to Arusha are Tarangire National Park, which is very famous for its elephants, and Lake Manyara National Park. And lastly, you can also visit Arusha National Park, which is not as famous as the others, but it is a great place if you want to do a walking safari. So on a walking safari, as the name suggests, you look for animals on foot instead of on a safari vehicle, and you cover far less ground, far less terrain, so you will see less animals, but the animals that you do see, it's just an incredible experience. It is so humbling, and it is genuinely so different to see animals from the ground on foot than it is to see them from a safari vehicle. You truly feel in touch with nature, and it is a truly unique experience that I highly recommend to all wildlife and nature lovers out there. But not everything is about safaris and wildlife. Northern Tanzania also has a lot of culture, and this area is particularly well known for the Maasai tribe. So if you're interested in learning about the Maasai tribe, I highly recommend that you go to a place called Olpobongi Maasai Village, which is around 2.5 hours away from Arusha, and you can go there on a day trip or you can spend the night in the village. So I did the second option. I spent the night in Olpobongi Maasai Village, and it is one of the best activities that I have ever done in all of my years of traveling, honestly. I have visited 3 Maasai villages in my lifetime, 2 in Tanzania and 1 in Kenya, and I can confidently say that this one was the best one because it was a true cultural immersion experience and I loved every minute of it. I actually have a full YouTube video about my time in Olpobongi Maasai Village. I will link it in the description if you're interested in watching it, but it was honestly an amazing experience that I highly recommend you do if you're in Arusha. Another very unique cultural activity that you can do is visiting the Hadzabe tribe. So the Hadzabe live in the Lake Eyasi area, but most tours start and end in Arusha. And again, you have the option of doing day trips to visit the Hadzabe, or you can spend the night there. I did a day trip, but I recommend that you spend the night because you get more time in the area with the Hadzabe, and you also get the chance to visit the Dadoga tribe. So the Hadzabe, the reason they're super interesting is that they are the last hunter-gatherers in East Africa, and it's just such a privilege to spend time with them and to learn from them. There are not many hunter-gatherers left in this world. There are only 3,000 Hadzabe left, and it is truly so interesting and so fascinating to learn from them, their way of life, their customs, and their traditions. They also have a very unique language which uses clicks instead of consonants, and it is a true privilege to have listened to it in person, so just listen to this.
Hamana ota kakata ayat ena ota kakata kakata ota
Another activity that I recommend you do if you're staying in Arusha is going to the Mataruni waterfalls. So these are the highest waterfalls in northern Tanzania, and they're super beautiful. The hike to get here is also incredibly beautiful. It's green, it's lush, and it is pretty beginner friendly. It is a pretty easy hike, I'd say, and I'm saying that as a beginner friendly hiker myself. I'm definitely not a pro hiker. If you're traveling here during the dry season, you can also swim at the bottom of the waterfall, and all year round you can also do the coffee tour with the Chaga tribe. So the Chaga tribe live in the area and they're very well known for their coffee. It is part of their tradition and their culture, and this is one of the best coffees in the world. There is nothing quite like drinking freshly made coffee in the jungles at the bottom of the Kilimanjaro with the Chaga tribe. It is simply amazing and something I highly recommend you do. And lastly, if you like nature, if you like hiking, you might be interested in hiking all the way up to the top of Mount Meru. So Mount Meru overlooks Arusha city, and it is the second highest mountain in all of Tanzania, only after Mount Kilimanjaro, and it is also one of the highest mountains in all of Africa. So I will make sure I leave links to all of these tours in the description down below, so make sure you check out those links if you want to do any of these tours, if any of these tours speaks to you. They're all with Get Your Guide, which is an app that I use so often in all of my travels. I've talked about Get Your Guide so much because I genuinely love this company. They're super reliable. They're super flexible with their payment options. You can also cancel a tour 24 hours in advance if you're not convinced about it, and you will get all of your money back. And the tours that I've been on with them are super great quality. So they offer the best of the best when it comes to travel, quality, flexibility, and reliability. So again, I will make sure I leave all of those links in the description. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about how you can get around Arusha and its surrounding area. So if you want to go to a national park, or you want to do a safari, you want to go to a really touristic place, the easiest thing is simply to book a tour and arrange transportation with them. So all of the tours which I linked in the description include transportation. You don't have to worry about it at all. It's included in the price, and you just have to arrange a pickup location. But if you want a bit more independence and you want to move around a bit more freely, then tuk-tuks are a great option. So you can find them very easily all over Arusha city, and they're a great way of getting to different locations within the city itself, although they are not great if you want to move outside of the city. If you want to go somewhere further away, like Moshi or like the airport, then I suggest you get a taxi. There's a few ways that you can do that. You can arrange a taxi with your accommodation, you can arrange airport pickup and airport drop-off, or you can also use the app Bolt. So apps like Uber don't really work in Tanzania, they're not available in Arusha, but Bolt is available and it does work pretty well. And it even works for tuk-tuks as well if you want to use it for that. So if you're planning on moving around by yourself in Tanzania and Arusha specifically, I recommend that you download this app. Okay, and before I end this video, I want to answer a very common question that I get about Arusha, which is it safe? And the short answer is yes. I spent a full 8 days in Arusha by myself as a solo female traveler, and I felt really good about it. I will admit I was very intimidated by the city at first purely because of how bustling and chaotic it is, which I think would intimidate a lot of people. And if you want to know what that was like and just how intimidated I was, I really suggest that you watch my vlog from Arusha. I will link it in the description as well. But basically I was really intimidated, but the city really isn't dangerous. It was all in my head, to be honest. Pickpocketing is a bit of a risk in Arusha, like in every major city out there. It's a very bustling and chaotic city, like I said, so there is a risk that someone might try to steal your phone. So just make sure that you don't flash any expensive goods and that you keep all of your belongings within your sight at all times. And like in most tourist destinations out there, scams can be a problem. So in Arusha, they can be very problematic when it comes to safaris. So make sure that you book with a reliable safari operator and with a reliable tour operator. Make sure you look at the reviews and all of those things. And if you're going to get on a taxi, make sure you know the price before you actually get on to avoid having problems with pricing and with costs later on when you get off at your destination. So that is all for this video. I really hope that you found it useful, and if you did, if this video helped you out in any way, make sure that you like, that you comment, and that you subscribe, and also remember to check out the links in the descriptions for other informational videos about Tanzania and for all of the tours that I mentioned, and I will see you in the next video.